Welcome everyone. So today we have our lead journalist Stacy with us, and she's going to talk about the very important aspect of your IRAS application, which is the personal statement. So we are going to be discussing some of the issues that she has seen in the IMG's personal statement. She's reviewed over hundreds and hundreds for the past few years. So some of the issues, how you can improve and make it a stellar personal statement. So Stacy, welcome and glad to have you.
Thank you, Pawan. My name is Stacy Smakovsky. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I am an editor and book coach on multiple levels, but I also edit these personal statements, and I really enjoy this. This is a thing I take special time out for each year to do because I'm passionate about helping these young physicians come into the country and study, and I want to help them as best I can. So I'm excited to be part of your company, and I'm excited to help these students.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's get started. You've seen so many, edited so many. Tell us, what are some of the strongest points or some of the strengths that you have seen in these foreign graduate personal statements? They come from all over the world. So what are some of the common themes you've seen when it comes to the strongest ones?
Well, the strongest ones always are very personal, and you get to really glimpse what the student has experienced and how they've been influenced to be a physician. And if the personal statement doesn't reflect that, then it kind of falls flat. And so I think that the strongest statements are always going to be those that have the voice of the student and have the experiences of the student that will best reflect their passion for the pursuit of their career. So I would say that that's the very best statements that I've read. Leading into that, you would need to make sure that your opening statement grabs the attention. This is one of the most important things you need to understand when writing your personal statement. And that opening paragraph, but specifically that opening sentence, needs to really kind of wrap your experience and your passion and everything into a grab attention type statement. The reason being is because if you think about it, each of these reviewers, they're stacks of reviews and stacks of CVs and stacks of personal statements that they're going through. And if yours starts off on this monotonous rant, then they will immediately set you aside, and they probably won't even get beyond that first sentence. So you really need to hook your reader right off the bat. And so I would say that is probably one of the next things that I think stand out most to me, is when I get a strong personal statement, it's going to grab my attention. For example, I have a student last year that actually did a fantastic job with this. They immediately grabbed my attention when they talked about being involved in an earthquake and attending to some patients that were smashed under buildings, and that experience, I get goosebumps right now thinking about it. Just the experience that they had helping those patients and following up with them later, it really struck me personally as a human, and I'm pretty sure that would have grabbed the attention of any reviewer, knowing that this was a person that was passionate and was capable and had a fantastic experience to I guess the word would be anchor them in that career. Okay. So I would say that's probably two really strong elements that exist in personal statements out there. There are more, of course. Strong verbs. We've talked about strong verbs with your students before, and how the use of strong verbs in a CV is essential to make sure that the CV is constantly in this active voice. But it's the same with your personal statement. You need to make sure that your verbs are illustrating not only that you are currently excited about the career that you're pursuing, but also that you've actively stayed excited about it. And so using those strong verbs will continually emotionally pull the readers into your statement and help them feel your emotion and your passion for the business. So it's a really good idea to just stay away from trying to do big fonts and making it look all pretty and having extra spaces because you're trying to fill up a page. It's just better to keep it short, sweet, and then to the point, and include all those elements that are recommended. Just a couple more things on the strongest elements would include speaking about what you bring to the table. It's actually one of the strongest things I see, but it's also one of the biggest mistakes I see where people leave this out. And you really need to speak about what makes you different, what makes you shine, what makes you look better than maybe the competition that you are up against. And I think a lot of students fail to understand that they are competing for a position. And so sometimes they are, somewhat humble, but also meek and reserved in trying to they feel like they're maybe bragging about themselves, but that is an important thing that they need to do. They need to make themselves shine a little brighter than the one before or after them so that the reviewer will remember them.
You had mentioned initially the personal statement should be in your own voice. So don't try to become someone else. So I think if you can talk a bit about that and then switch to, some of those weaknesses or improvement areas or lousy personal statements that you.
I wouldn't call them lousy, but yeah. So as far as your personal voice, you have to remember that the personal statement is actually the chance for you to show your personality and to show you as a human that your CV will not reflect. So so showing your voice and allowing your personality to shine through is really important. It's great if you want to have somebody help you write your CV or not CV, but personal statement, or have somebody even write it for you. But you need to make sure that you understand that CV or that personal statement, I keep saying CV, you need to make sure that the personal statement sounds like you. And if it doesn't sound like you, then you're going to sound really kind of disjointed. If you get into an interview and they're asking you questions about your personal statement and you don't speak the same way, or you don't have the same enthusiasm that maybe your personal statement is showing for those certain things. So make sure that you're knowledgeable about what you include in your personal statement and your CV, and make sure that you are not just throwing information out there that's that you're guessing, because they're going to ask you those questions. And if you're going to put it in your statement or your CV, you're going to be grilled about it, especially if it's something that interests them. So it's always good to make sure that you're including things that you know about, so that you can get the right impression about yourself when you're in those interviews. We want you to understand that as a doctor, you are a civil servant, that you are regarded as an amazing person, but at the same time, you're no better than your patients. And so they want you to understand that when you're giving a personal statement, that keep it humble, but also remain boastful about your enthusiasm for the career and what you've been able to accomplish and learn. Okay. So I would say that that's probably one of the most important things in terms of voice, is avoiding that flamboyance, avoiding the obtuse statements, avoiding the hyperbolic, flamboyant language. So the next thing I would say that's probably a common mistake, and I have this as my number one common mistake, is that they're trying to include too much of their CV or summarize their CV within their personal statement.
I see.
Yeah, so your CV is going to be reviewed. Your CV is looked at in conjunction with your personal statement. The personal statement is the way to highlight what on your CV is not fully developed. So what you want to do is pick those things specifically from the CV that have changed you, that have influenced you, that have made you better, but specific instances from those experiences are what we're really looking for. So for example, if you worked in the ER for St. Al's in one city, and you had one patient in particular that had pneumonia or a cardiac event that you want to highlight because you learned something from that, you need to make sure that that is what you include from your CV, not that you worked at St. Al's in, you know, Boise, Idaho. You need to make sure that it's the actual event that struck you and made you who you are. So I would say that that's a common mistake, that trying to include everything from your CV in that personal statement. Again, you're restricted to a certain word count. So keep that in mind when you're writing, that you don't have to fill that word count, but you should not try to or go over that word count. And another common mistake that I see is we'll see some students repeat information throughout a CV or throughout a statement, repeat examples or repeat characteristics or repeat learning experiences, or they will remain vague and not really give us a lot of detail. And that is not a good idea. If you're going to mention something in a personal statement to highlight something fantastic about you, make sure that you're specific and make sure that you're not getting too wrapped up in the idea that I've got to give all this information, so I can't give too much information about this. Go ahead, give us the details, let us know what you've done, especially if it's pertinent. Now again, don't do this if it's completely non-related to what you're pursuing. Make sure that it's related to what you're pursuing and what you're looking forward to continuing on doing. If it's not related, then there's no point of even including it.
So relevance with specific examples.
Right, exactly. Another thing that, I mentioned this before, is that one of the common mistakes is excluding why you want to be in the program that you're applying for and excluding why you want to work in the United States. Now, if you've been working in the States for a while and you don't feel like you need to give that explanation, that's fine, but you should include always why you want to be in their program. And this is something that I see skipped so often. You really need to let the program director or the program reviewer know that you want to be in their program for these reasons, so that they can see why they should choose you above other people who are saying maybe just, oh, thanks for considering my application. You want to make sure that you're telling them, I want to be in your program because of this and this and this, and I love this program director that you have, or I worked with this nurse that's worked with your program before. You know, make those connections, because if they see that, they'll be like, oh, okay, they might be a really good candidate for this then. So don't be afraid to pull those little, like, I know that guy, or I know that guy, or I love that city, or whatever reason you want to be in their program. Remember, you're asking for a position in their program. You're asking for a job. You're not telling them, well, you're welcome. You just get to be happy that you were in my presence. No. You're asking them to accept you, and you want to give them reasons why you're a good candidate. So always make sure you include that information in your statement. And then finally, again, I want to reiterate this because it's so important. I see this happen all the time. They leave out why they're different from the other candidates. They leave out why they're unique or they're special. And so you need to make sure that when you're writing your personal statement, you say that I'm hardworking because I've had these experiences, or because of that earthquake that I was a part of, I learned the importance of my role and how I have a talent for helping people, and I want to continue that, to cultivate that talent with your program, or whatever that is. But whatever you're saying, just make sure that you reiterate why you stand out above your other students, because the CV, while it's great, it is just a a synopsis of those things in a very mechanical robotic list, and you want to make sure that that personal statement fully develops, well, not fully, but as much as possible develops your personality for that reviewer so that they want to ask you in for an interview.
How would you recommend IMGs go about writing it, putting it in a structure? What would be your recommendations for them to get started?
I would say the first thing that they need to do is just take some quiet time, maybe 10-15 minutes, just reflecting on what they've accomplished so far. Look back on what you've done, close your eyes, picture those moments that were defining in your life that maybe stand out the most to you. Take a note of, specific mentors or patients that stand out that really kind of helped shape who you are, and then begin there. If you start there, then you might find yourself just easily writing about why you want to be in that program. And I really recommend that you look at the structure that USMLE SARP puts out, the outline of how these are put together. Make sure that you have that introductory gripping paragraph, and make sure that you then transition into your schooling and the things that not necessarily where you went to school, but what it was in your school work that led you to the programs that you've been part of, or led you to the training that you received. And then go on to the training and the residencies that you've been a part of in your various countries, and or the additional practices that you've been part of, and express what you have learned and why that makes you so passionate about what you're doing. And then again, close with why you want to be in the United States, why you want to be in their program. And again, you can thank them for their consideration of your application, but always end with a thank you, so here I am and I'm ready to start working with you, because it's always good to end that with a very positive request and statement. I would say, more than anything, as far as like my top tips, making sure that you keep your statement short. Again, I've had several statements come in that have been excessively long, and one of the hardest things for me and my staff to do is to reduce it and cut so much out. I almost feel like I'm slicing bits of their hearts out, like I hate to do it to somebody, because I'm always afraid they're gonna, well, she didn't like that, she didn't like it. No, I did. It's not that. It's just that you have such limited space, and I really want you to make sure that you get what is most important in your statement in there. So yeah, keep your statement short. Make sure you're trying to, like I said, those powerful verbs will help you do a good job at moving the pacing of your statement well. And avoid politics and avoid controversy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Do not. I mean, we all have political views. They're not all the same. And what you hear in the media in your various countries is different than what we hear in our media here in the States. And it's so convoluted and so distorted that oftentimes it's not correct. And so when you're putting your stuff in front of a reviewer, and if you go off on a political tangent, you might just immediately turn your reviewer off, because they won't think the same way you do. So I would just avoid at all costs. And I would extend that even into your interview. Avoid it on your social media platforms. They will check you out, and especially in the States. And if they're looking at your social media and they see that you're this outspoken somebody about something that they don't agree with, they may exclude you. And it's a shame, because there's value in diversity, and I want to make sure that you guys all have an equal shot at the positions in these various places. So based on your merit and based on your work and based on your passion. So make sure that those are the things that they're looking at, not the other things that may outshine it. Don't ever say, since I was a child, I've always wanted to be a doctor.
I think that's the best one. Yes.
Yeah. Don't ever say it. Just it is the most cliche, overused sentence ever used in the history of personal statements for residencies. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen that sentence, and I think from this point forward, I will probably just immediately remove it. But don't say it. Pick again something that has been the most impactful. Like, go through that vision experience where you close your eyes and think about those things that are the most important things in your life that helped shape who you are, and use those things to springboard your personal statement. Don't say that, well, my mother was a doctor and my father was a doctor, so I'm going to be a doctor because from a time I was a child. Don't even bother that. That they don't want to hear that. They want to hear why you're special. So that is probably the best advice I can give you. And then just be yourself and allow the reviewers and the people at USMLE to help you shape your personal statement and give you the best chance at that interview. Once you get in front of a reviewer, you have so much better chance at getting accepted to the program than just being the piece of paper that they set aside. You want to give that personal impression. So allow us to help you, give you the best shot at that. And so follow the advice of the reviewers, follow the advice of the instructors, and follow the advice of your editors, and make sure that you're giving yourself the best shot at that interview. And that's what I would say is my best advice for you.
No, this was very helpful. This was great. Thank you very much, Stacy. I appreciate as always, and
Oh, thank you.
look forward to working with you in the coming seasons.